in Texas, y'all, and this is just a wonderful day. This is a victorious day for the Foster family. And his family, his friends, supporters, even this is just a victory for the world. And because there should be no executions anyway, we don't have the power. That's God's work, not man's work. Vengeance is God. And anyway, we just glad that we had victory. And once again, even though he's here for a reason, our hearts go out to the victim's family, the victim and his family. And it's just we've been through a lot of struggle. And my son, he never killed anybody, nor intended for anybody to be killed. I know my son. I know his heart. He would never do anything to cause the death of somebody else. And it's just as simple as that. And I'm just so at peace and happiness, joy. And I'm sure if he knows the news by now, I'm sure he is too. I gave him the news that how the board voted 6-1 in favor of clemency, and the governor didn't take too much time to go along with that recommendation. So he's through with death row. There will be no other death row, and he can live his life on now in peace. Don't have to worry about the future of facing death through execution of through the state of Texas. No more executions. We don't want any more in the state of Texas anyway.
When you first found out about it, sir, what was your feeling?
Well, I was full of joy and happiness. When I first found out, I wanted him to know. So I didn't get in to let him know, but one of the staff members did let him know, and I'm sure I can see him now jumping for joy, and he's at peace also, and I mean just so happy to know that he's not going to be wrongfully executed, because that's what it would have turned out to be. He would have had a wrongful execution.
When you found out about this, how long ago was it you found out about it? Just shortly after the board's decision?
Shortly after the board's decision. I found out the board's decision a little before 11 o'clock.
I was in there.
Or maybe a little after 11 o'clock. And I went in and I told him about it. They were very cooperative, and they let me go back in just to give them the news, and I left out. By the time I came out, about 10 minutes later, I found out that the governor went along with the board's recommendation. The board recommended 6-1 in favor of his sentence to be commuted from death to life.
How was your son feeling? I mean, when you talked to him earlier, what was his feeling right there when he heard? What was his reaction to that?
He was sitting down, and I went in and I screamed and hollered, 6-1 in your favor, 6-1. And he was looking at me, and he didn't know what I meant at first, because I don't know. You never know what was going through his mind. This is a day of scheduled execution. He jumped up. I said, 6-1, the board ruled in your favor. And he jumped up smiling. He was visiting his wife. She jumped and started crying and hugging. She hugged me, and he was just in awe. First he was just froze, like with a smile. Anyway, he went through his ceremonies of celebrating. I say, slow down. It's not over yet. We have to get the governor's approval. And it wasn't long after that the governor approved and went along with the board's recommendation.
Okay. So when are you going to be able to see your son again now?
Well, personally, I don't know. I don't know when we'll be able to see him, and
Kenneth's father heard
I know that it's going to be all right whenever we get to see him. See, I don't know how they're going to do it now, because I'm sure they're not going to put him back on death row because something happened to him while he's on death row. They would be held liable, and he doesn't have a death sentence. So I'm sure he'll be placed in population somewhere at another unit, and they have probably 100 and something prisons in Texas, and I can't say where he'll be placed, but I hope it will be close to home.
What do you think about Governor Perry's decision on that? He's never made a decision like this.
Well, we all know that he made a fair decision, because Kenneth was he was scheduled to give his life for a life he had not taken nor had knowledge that it would be
No, I
taken.
have not seen him since that
And
final.
even the prosecutors, that's undisputed by the prosecutors.
And your name again, sir?
My name is Kenneth Foster Sr. I'm the father of Kenneth Foster Jr., who has just been commuted from death to life
All right, thank you so much. If the phone
on death sentence that was scheduled for today.
is 512 number, you keep missing it.
What is your name, dear?
My name is Tasha Foster.
Tasha, this is your husband that was supposed to be executed this evening. What did you feel? What did you think today, starting out today until you got the news? How are you feeling this morning and now?
Yesterday everybody was really scared. Everybody was afraid that, we do have a strong case, but I mean, they don't have to grant it. We were afraid that they were not going to rule on it until the last minute. It was a lot of, we tried to stay positive, but not unrealistic at the same time. So we had to really stay in the middle and keep all possibilities open. And this morning we all just woke up and we were nervous, but we all felt positive. And we had the visits with Kenneth. When he had his first two visitors, he said that he was really, really, really positive. He's been having good signs, and I don't know. It's just such a load off of our shoulders right now.
So what happens now? What's plans now? Or what your plans and his plans?
I'm going to celebrate tonight, I can tell you that. Right now they're going to transport Kenneth out of the Huntsville unit back to another prison. We're not 100% sure what prison that will be, but his sentence has been commuted to life in jail. So I don't know where I'll go from here, but I'll know that we're going to have contact visits soon. We'll be able to touch him. We'll be able to hug him. His daughter will, after 11 years, finally be able to hold him. And that right now is the biggest blessing.
How old was your daughter when this happened?
She was going on 8 months when this happened.
She really doesn't know her father that well?
She knows her father. They write back and forth all the time. They visit each other, but she was just never able to touch him.
And your name one more time?
Tasha Foster.
This is a public sidewalk and there's no danger. There's no threat to security at the moment.
Okay, Michelle, you ready?
I am.
Okay, first of all, name?
Michelle Lyons, spokeswoman for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
Okay, tell me what occurred today. We're looking at an execution tonight, and what happened?
Well, Kenneth Foster was scheduled to be executed Thursday evening, but was granted a commutation of sentence by the governor of Texas shortly after noon. As such, his death sentence then has been commuted to life, and he was being returned to the Polunsky unit in Livingston, which is where death row is housed. Once we receive all the appropriate paperwork from the governor's office, then we will bring him to a diagnostic facility where we will reclassify him, and he will be part of the general prison population.
Now, by commuting this to a life sentence, how does it go back in the law back when it occurred? I mean, as far as the parole type thing, the parole laws and things, or does it occur now, or how does that work?
Now, the governor is given specific options that he can take in death penalty cases. On his own, he can grant a one-time only 30-day reprieve. Now, with a recommendation from the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, he can also grant a commutation of sentence, which in effect lifts the death sentence and gives that person life in prison. And that's what occurred today. The Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles voted 6-1 to recommend to the governor that he commute the sentence, and he did act on their recommendation.
Okay. What about something like this? I mean, he's never done anything like this. In fact, it's been a long time before governors commuted a sentence, isn't it? You know when the last time?
No. Just let me wipe. Sorry, my nose is itching.
Hang on. Okay. What about the last time governor was Bush, right? With Henry Lee Lucas?
The last execution that I recollect, well, let me start that over. The last death penalty case that I recollect being commuted was that of Henry Lee Lucas, who was commuted by then Governor Bush after it was determined that he may not have committed one of the crimes for which he'd actually been sentenced to death.
Okay. So he basically now will go back to the Polonsky unit and be transferred then to diagnostic, you said?
Right, Mr. Foster will go back to the Polonsky unit where death row is housed and will be housed there temporarily while we await the paperwork from the governor's office that gives him the life sentence. Once we get all of the paperwork in order, we'll take him to one of our diagnostic facilities and he will go through the regular classification process that any inmate goes through so that we can place him in a general population unit that will best meet his needs.
Okay. Now, does this mean SEC, or is he just basically going to open a population?
Not necessarily. He very well may be just in the general population. When we look at an inmate's placement in a unit, we look at all different facets of their background. We're going to look at their educational background, their vocational background, their job skills, medical needs, and then we'll determine which unit will best fit him.
All right. I think that's got it.
It's okay.
Let's see.
Does it look
Anything
weird
from
that
the-
I'm looking at
No,
you?
you're fine.
It doesn't look like I'm
You're
looking
fine.
up.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that too. That's Michelle. Go ahead and tell me what happened today.
Okay. Kenneth Foster, who was scheduled to be executed this evening, was granted a stay of execution and given a commutation of sentence by the governor of Texas. Mr. Perry was acting on a recommendation from the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, who voted 6-1 to recommend that Mr. Foster's sentence be commuted to life in prison.
Okay, how many board members sit on the board of pardon and parole?
Currently, there are 7 voting board members on the Board of Pardons and Paroles, and they did vote 6-1 to grant or to recommend. Let me start that over. There are 7 voting members currently on the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, and they voted 6-1 to recommend to Governor Perry that he grant a commutation of sentence to Mr. Foster.
Okay. All right, I got it.
Oh. You say you on 13.
I came out and the sun was shining and
Oh man.
cameras on my face.
Number that you could call. Oh, hold on 1 second, let me grab it. Hello, you there? 210-643-9408.